What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut, and today we're going to be continuing our 2021 NFL offseason recap by looking at the four teams of the NFC South. Earlier today, we did focus on the AFC South, so without further ado, we will jump right in. We're going to start by discussing the offseason of the Atlanta Falcons, and they had one of the more quiet offseasons in the league this year. Now, they did have 3 picks in the first 3 rounds, and of course, the 4th overall pick was used to select tight end Kyle Pitts. Normally, you don't see tight ends going anywhere near the top 5, let alone top 10, but Kyle Pitts seems like he's a once-in-a-generation prospect at tight end. He could also be classified as a receiver. He has the potential to be very good. Now, with the 40th pick, they would select safety Richie Grant. Again, another guy that they could use help. They can use to shore up their weaker secondary. And at 68, they would select offensive tackle Jalen Mayfield. Everyone can always use an additional tackle. Tackles are few and far between. Now, in free agency, they did make a few moves. They signed quarterback A.J. McCarron to be their backup. He has unfortunately torn his ACL, so he is done for the year. So we will not see him play in 2021. They did also sign running back Mike Davis. It helps that you got him from a division rival. He looks like he's going to be a workhorse for this offense. And then in the defensive side of the ball, they only got 2 players, cornerback Fabian Moreau and safety Eric Harris. Neither of them figured to be long-term figures in this team. So now, they did lose some key players. Longtime backup quarterback Matt Schwab did retire, so hopefully he enjoys his retirement. They lost some skill players as well. Running backs Todd Gurley and Ito Smith are both no longer on the team, and wide receiver Julio Jones has been traded away. Now, Gurley was a disappointment. They signed him last year in the offseason, and he just did not look good. So, unfortunately, he's all but done. I don't think another team's going to really take a chance on him. Ito Smith, always a good reserve. Julio Jones is, of course, the big name here. Julio's always been a good player. He's arguably the best player from a loaded class. So, seeing him get traded away has to be bittersweet for the Falcons. Their team is not going to be very good this year, so at least he has a chance to compete for a ring. They also lost longtime center Alex Smack and a pair of safeties in Damontae Kazee and Keanu O'Neal. None of those 3 guys. Mack will be missed, but the 2 safeties, they'll be missed, but they weren't worth paying what other teams paid for them. Next, we have the Panthers, and the Panthers had a somewhat busy draft. So with the 8th overall pick, they would select cornerback J.C. Horn. And I love it because we're getting to the point where I remember watching these players' fathers play. I remember watching his dad play back in the day, Joe Horn. So it's just kind of a slap in the face to me. At 59, they would select wide receiver Terrace Marshall Jr. And then at 70, they would go offensive tackle Brady Christensen. And with the 83rd pick, they would select tight end Tommy Tremble. Now, of these guys, I do like the potential of Marshall a lot. He looks like he's going to be a very solid player at minimum in the NFL. It's going to come down to quarterback play. Now, they were somewhat busy in the free agency pool. They did trade for quarterback Sam Darnold. Can't blame them. He's got potential. He was a top pick for a reason. But here we are, and he unfortunately is not going to be the player that the Jets thought they were getting with the top pick. It is what it is, though. Next, we have tight end Dan Arnold. Nothing great there. They did make some moves for the O-line as well, acquiring a pair of tackles in Cam Irving and Taylor Moton. And then they also signed utility, whatever you want to call him, everywhere man, for the O-line, Pat Elflein. Solid player, not a superstar, but still solid. They also added defensive tackle Daquan Jones and defensive tackle Morgan Cox. And then they shored up their linebacking core by adding Hassan Reddick. And they got A.J. Bourne, the cornerback. So they got some solid pieces. Some of these guys can be around for a few years at minimum. Can't go wrong with that. Now, they did lose some key players as well. They did trade away Teddy Bridgewater, the quarterback. Now, he was not traded for Sam Darnold, heads up. I do want to point that out. We did discuss both these trades in a previous video that will be linked in the description below. They also lost running back Mike Davis and wide receiver Curtis Samuel. Some key skill players that will be gone. They will be missed. Offensive tackle Russell Okung left the team. Defensive tackle Quan Short, who was a first-round pick back in the day, also left. And then linebacker Tahil Whitehead and safety Trey Boston both also left the team. Boston, I believe, is still a free agent unless something's changed in the past day or 2. So, yeah, not the biggest losses for Carolina, but these guys will be missed. Next, we have the New Orleans Saints, and they weren't too busy in the draft. With the 20th pick, they selected defensive end Peyton Turner. With the 60th pick, they went linebacker Pete Werner. And with the 76th pick, they would select cornerback Paulson Adobo. These three guys, they clearly saw that they need some help on defense, so they got some defensive players. It'll be interesting to see if any of them could do much as rookies. Turner probably has a decent shot too. Now, in free agency, they did re-sign quarterback Jameis Winston. He will be that QB1, at least for the time being. They signed tight end Nick Vannett, guard J.R. Sweeney. So a pair of guys that, good to have on your team, not superstars or anything. And then they also did sign defensive end Tano Kapasongon. So he's decent. I mean, he's coming from a decent organization. Linebacker Quan Alexander re-signed with the team. Cornerback Brian Poole, who I mentioned in the AFC East video, I'm a big fan of, always constantly underrated. They got him. They re-signed P.J. Williams, the cornerback, who was well known for his role in the Minneapolis Miracle. And they re-signed safety Marcus Williams. So they got some key pieces to come back. They didn't lose too much, except they did see future Hall of Fame quarterback Drew Brees retire. So it's an end of an era. He's been with that team for, I believe, 15 years. I believe he signed with them in 2006. So it's definitely the end of an era for New Orleans. He did get them a Super Bowl win. So a lot of respect for Drew Brees. I hated going up against him as an Eagles fan, but he was one of the greatest. Wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders and tight end Jared Cook both also left the team. Cook will be missed more than Sanders at this stage in their careers. Defensive end Trey Hendrickson also left. He inked a massive deal with Cincinnati. Defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins also left the team. And then they did lose some corners. Janoris Jenkins left the team via free agency, and Patrick Robinson, who was a first-round pick back in the day, announced his retirement. Best of luck to him. I hope he enjoys his retirement. And punter Thomas Morstead, who's been with the team for a while, is also no longer with the team. He is currently a free agent, last I checked. Lastly, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the defending champs, who will play host to the Dallas Cowboys in a couple of hours today. And they kept most of their picks here. In the first 3 rounds, they did keep all 3 of their picks. And with the 32nd pick, they would select defensive end Joe Tryon Shoyinka. With the 64th pick, they would select possible future quarterback Kyle Trask. And then with the 95th pick, they would select offensive tackle Robert Hainsey. Now, you may be wondering, why did they get 95 if they kept all their picks? New England had to forfeit their 3rd-round pick. No comment on that. So, Kyle Trask is the most intriguing player of these 3. It's going to be interesting to see if they can groom him into a quarterback of the future. It's really going to come down to how long does Brady want to play, because Tampa's going to keep him as long as he wants to be there. Now, they were busy in free agency, but it was mostly just re-signing their own guys. So they re-signed quarterback Blaine Gabbert. I'm just going to discuss the re-signings real quick. Re-signed backup quarterback Blaine Gabbert, running back Leonard Fournette, wide receiver Antonio Brown, wide receiver Chris Godwin, who got franchise tagged, tight end Rob Gronkowski, defensive end Shaquille Barrett, defensive tackle Ndamukong Suh, linebacker Levante David, and kicker Ryan Suckup. So they clearly liked the core that they had. They still have all 22 starters that they had last year in their Super Bowl winning team. All 22 are returning. You can't blame them for doing that. Now, the only 2 players that they added that are of note are linebacker Kevin Minter and running back Giovanni Bernard. It will be interesting to see how these 2 can merge and, go with the team. Bernard makes it so this team's going to have a very, interesting 3 running back committee with Fournette, Ronald Jones, and, of course, Giovanni Bernard. And then Kevin Minter, he probably won't have too big of a role, probably more of a special teamer, but still. Now, they didn't lose too much this offseason either. They did lose backup center A.Q. Shipley, who retired. Best of luck to him. Linebacker Deion Buchanan also left the team. And special team player, safety, Andrew Adams left the team. So, again, this team looks like it should be able to compete for a championship for another year. Now, last year, the standings were nothing too crazy. New Orleans did win this division with a 12-4 record. Tampa Bay finished right behind them at 11-5. And then Carolina was the inverse of Tampa Bay at 5-11. And Atlanta was the inverse of New Orleans at 4-12. How do I have them doing this year? I have Tampa Bay jumping New Orleans to win this division, and have Atlanta jumping Carolina to finish 3rd. Now, Tampa Bay, this team looks like it's ready to go. This team is stacked. They have a now healthy Brady, since we found out he played last year on a torn MCL. They basically are getting all the same pieces they had last year back. They're added some youth. So this team's definitely going to be good to go. This team is definitely going to be ready. They're willing to show that, Brady's not a fluke. Brady didn't have just one more good year left in the tank. They want to win. New Orleans, I have them regressing slightly just because they lost Drew Brees. Jameis Winston is such a question mark when it comes to quarterback play. He'll have a game where he'll get you, 6 touchdowns, but then he'll have a game where he throws 4 interceptions. So I don't know if that's going to work with the Saints offense full time. Especially also with Michael Thomas starting the year on the PUP. There's rumors going around that he may not even play at all in 2021. So we're going to have to see what happens with that. And then I have Atlanta over Carolina just because Atlanta, they have a quarterback that they've had for a decade at this point in Matt Ryan versus a new quarterback in Sam Darnold. We know what Matt Ryan can do. And yes, he did lose his top target in Julio Jones, but now he has Kyle Pitts. So it's going to be interesting. Carolina, I like them, but I just don't see them doing much damage in this division this year. But anyway, that is the NFC South. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope that you can hopefully watch the start of football this year, Tampa Bay versus Dallas, Tampa Bay hosting Dallas. But this was our NFC South recap video. Again, hopefully you enjoyed it. Have a good rest of your day.